So Erica, where are you from?
So my practice is in Lakewood, Colorado.
Okay.
And I work predominantly with eating disorders and trauma, and I do EMDR. And my ages range from 14 on up.
Okay. So how long have you been in private practice?
So my practice has been up and running for about 1.5 years. And before that, I was part of a treatment center, so doing some partial hospitalization treatment for eating disorders. And then I was also part of a group practice. And so from there, I decided that I wanted to launch my own practice.
And was that difficult to kind of take that leap?
You know, I think, it was definitely a leap of faith. And so being able to say, you know what, I'm in this great spot right now. I think I'm ready, and just really banking on the fact of using my faith to really put that into full swing. And it's taken some time. So I wish I could get on here and just say, you know, it was a breeze and anybody can do that. I think you just really have to be persistent with what you want out of life and what you want out of your business practice, really.
And so what is it that you knew you wanted from your practice?
For my practice, I knew that I really wanted flexibility. I knew that I wanted an opportunity also to employ my own techniques to therapy. So when you're in a group practice, you have some of that flexibility, and same with treatment centers. You know, you can include your skill set. However, you're kind of at the mercy of whoever you're working for. So they have a vision for their practice, which that's great. That's why they're doing it too. But for me, what I really wanted was being able to say, here's who I am as a person, and here's how I can be as your therapist.
And so what got you into the eating disorder world? What was it that made you choose that area expertise?
Sure. So I've struggled with my own story, and so I don't get into too many details with that, just as far as triggering content, and I don't want to do a how-to manual. But for me, I had my own personal struggle, and with trauma, same thing. I've had multiple little T's, as we like to call them, and big T traumas in my life. And so being able to work through those in order to better serve that population. You know, I joke around about having more of the experiential piece, and I'd rather the book piece. However, I feel like that's also made me a better therapist. I'm able to literally sit in both the eating disorder piece and the trauma piece and say, I literally get how you feel, and recovery is possible.
Nice. And I like to say that, you know, we're all fucked up in one way. It's just different levels of recovery we're at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's owning it and being like, you know what, that's a badge of honor. Like, I did this, and I'm resilient, and I am, you know, I'm a living proof of you can do this too. It sucks and it's hard, but you can do this.
Yeah. And so what is like one piece of advice for other clinicians who may not specialize in this area that they probably should know about working with individuals who may be struggling with eating issues?
So with eating disorders, it's a big piece to not have that individual own the eating disorder. So really separating out the illness. You know, eating disorders are basically, if you do parts work, it's a good way to integrate that too, separating out as far as it's not just about the food. There's so much more that I think that's such a terrible stereotype that's out there that, you know, if you just eat more or you eat less or you know, fill in the blank, having to do primarily with food, that's not how eating disorders work. There's a biological piece. There's a sociological piece. You know, there's the genetic piece. There's the environment piece, all these working pieces. And so to the clinicians that haven't worked with eating disorders, I'm willing to bet that at least 90% of your clients have had some type of struggle with food in some way. And not just the food piece, again, though, is using it as a way to deal with what's going on in their life. So really a coping skill. So I love it when I hear people say like, oh, I haven't come across that. And I encourage them to dig deeper. You know, what has it been like when you've been really stressed out or really upset? You know, what's your go-tos? And so being able to take it from that perspective.
And have you seen an increase in eating disorder cases as you've been going along in your private practice?
Yes. So my practice is predominantly, I would say 98% eating disorders. My other two are victims' comp cases and trauma related. I am starting to see an influx with the new year because people seem to think that, hey, you could be somebody that's going to help me with my New Year's resolution. And that is not what I do. I'm trying to pull you out of those New Year's resolutions to say, you are great as you are right now. And we're going to just be working on some of these things that, the eating disorder helped you in a time, but now it's no longer useful. So being able to detract from these New Year's resolutions that are, blowing up news feeds right now. I'm sure you've seen them too, hop on this juice cleanse, hop on this New Year's group, hop on this 20 pounds in the new year. And it's like, no, like you're furthering my clientele, which while I'm grateful that I have people to work with, I'm really sad that I have people that I need to be working with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you said that, you don't want to be a how-to manual, which reminds me of like back in the day when I was in high school, they showed us the Tracy Gold movie.
Yeah. Yes.
And it was just like, wow. And it was kind of like, okay, this is how you do it.
Right.
So how do we teach kids, like, this is not the path you want to go down, yet also teach them like healthier ways to do it, but be able to identify like maybe your friend is struggling.
Right. Yeah. That's a good thing to talk about because I had done a talk a little while back for middle school and it was predominantly seventh graders. And I had to be very mindful of my talk too, because I wanted to give enough information, but not enough information to where they're like, that sounds kind of interesting. And it's interesting because kiddos, even in middle school, they know a lot more than we think. And so, even these movies that are coming out on Netflix, To the Bone, there's pieces in that I'm grateful that they're showing what treatment can look like, but there's also kind of how to slipped in there. And so being able to really sit down with your kiddo and say, food is not an enemy. Food is not a moral, a good or a bad. It is food. And what is food for? And really talking to them about what it's for and really having more mindful practices at your dinner table. Let's talk about your food tonight. Like, where did that come from? Do you like it? What do you not like about it? Allowing them some choice in it too, as far as like, I want to help out with dinner tonight and having a new level of respect for food.
Nice. And do you talk about how friends can help other friends when they think that they might be struggling?
Yes. So I encourage, like I said, the youngest client I have right now is 14. And so even in that, that middle school talk, we talked about NEDA, which is the National Eating Disorder Association, and they have a hotline that they can do and reach out, if they have questions or concerns about if their friends are really engaging in eating disorder behaviors. I kind of pinpoint a couple of things to be looking for. And so while it's not pointing out some of these things as far as like, oh, I see Sally and she's, she's looking at food differently, or she's not eating her lunch. Like, let's take them out of that situation and say, Sally, like, I want to talk to you alone. I'm really concerned. I'm seeing that, you're not going to school dances anymore, or I'm seeing that, when you are in the cafeteria, you seem really upset during lunchtime. Do you need help? And putting it out that way. So not pointing out, you need to be eating your lunch, Sally, or something to that effect, because that's actually more shaming. And so that furthers the eating disorder, because the eating disorder is getting the attention then. And that's not something that we want to further either. So drawing that fine line, and, as kiddos get older, they're able to kind of curtail some of those things and finesse their approach, but being able to have that openness and just say, even if this were you, how would you want to be approached if you were really struggling? And then allowing them to kind of have that thought process.
Nice. Now, is there a book that maybe other therapists could benefit from reading? Do you have like your book you recommend?
Yeah, so there's a few. Carolyn Costin is really good about just putting some basic manuals out there about, what it looks like if your child's struggling with an eating disorder. And it's like the 7 keys to eating disorder recovery. That's always a go-to that I tell parents about. There's also books about, and I can put that in the comments if you want.
Yeah.
There's also, I encourage family-based therapy, which is the approach is called Maudsley, and I can put that in the comments
Mm-hmm.
too. But getting the parents buy-in is really, it's a hard thing. I can say out of the children that I've seen, a lot of them don't want to be in it because they feel like the child is the issue. And while that's my identified patient, usually it's actually the family unit because something else is going on in the family. So Carolyn, Costin, like I said, and then books on Maudsley approach. And I'll kind of rack my brain to see if there's any others I can add in the comments, but those are some good starting points.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Erica, for sharing your story with us today and being so flexible with me and my crazy schedule.
No worries. I get it. It's Friday too. So we're all just trying to catch up on notes and all that fun stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll have to have you back again soon. But put your website or any information under the video. So if people have more questions, they can ask you.
Absolutely. I can do that. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.